could I turn this old resin mixer into a ring turner? I mean, how professional does that look? Oh, I don't know if this is gonna work. Just get all of that out and just begin to spread that out. It basically just snaps. I can't believe this. Right, we are back, and I was actually planning a different video, but I kind of had an idea, and I don't know whether this is going to work. I do have the strangest of ideas sometimes. So you would have seen my previous video where I recently reviewed the new resin mixer from Let's Resin. Now, I have the older version. And I got thinking, because the video that I wanted to film, I wanted to make a ring, an inlay ring. And I couldn't be bothered to dig out the big cup turner. So what I'm thinking is, could I turn this old resin mixer into a ring turner? Now, the good thing about this model from Let's Resin is that you have this speed dial. I mean, that's too fast to be turning a ring. The resin's probably going to flick off everywhere. But if I turn the dial down, you can actually reduce the speed to a decent speed to turn a ring. So what I'm thinking is that I could turn this into a ring turner. So I have an old paddle here. I think what I've also got is this adapter for a tumbler turner, for a cup turner. It slots on the end, and then you can fit different size rings on. So what I'm thinking, if I can somehow marry these, I mean, that's going to be too long. It could work if I was to bond those together, but it's a little bit wonky, isn't it? This is hollow. It's 3D printed, it's hollow. So I'm also wondering whether I could drill a hole in the middle, but then it's got to be smack bang in the middle. Cut this down and then glue that into the actual ring holder. I don't know where this is going to go, guys. Yeah, I'm going to cut off the paddle head. Don't judge me. I can't find my hacksaw. I can only find the blades. So I'm just going to improvise. It's what I do on this channel. I completely wing everything that I do. I've got 120 something thousand subs just from winging it. So yeah, love it or hate it, that's what we do. So I'm not going to be able or needing that anymore. So I think I mean, I could potentially kind of glue that in with some UV resin. If, I don't know whether it would bond to this. I've never tried anything that's been 3D printed. What I'm thinking is I could drill a hole, poke it through a little bit, and then fill this with UV resin layer by layer until it's kind of not going to go anywhere. I suppose that is an option. It's just typical. I took my super glue home to fix Mrs. Cooper's shoe the other day, and I've left it at home. So I was going to super glue that in place instead of drilling a hole and then just fill around it. But will UV resin stick to this paddle? I might have to sand that down, I think, because these are made for resin to clean off quite easily. So I'm gonna sand it anyway, just to make sure. So I'm hoping those grooves will also help hold it in the resin, so it doesn't kind of just pull out with any stress. Okay, I'm just hoping, really hoping this works. I'm gonna have to apply a blob, push the rod, and make sure it's as centered as it can be. Sorry, the camera angle is not the greatest. And then just cure that quickly with my torch. and then I can add layers. But the good thing about this is that the light is penetrating through the 3D printed part. So I'm quite lucky. If this was more opaque, this definitely wouldn't work. And then what I can do, hopefully, I mean, it's quite a mesh-like. What I don't want to happen is to pour my UV resin in there and it go through this mesh-like material and leak inside here, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. I just don't want too much weight. So what I'm going to do now is stop talking and just layer some UV resin in the bottom until I'm happy that it's secure enough. Ooh, I don't know, and I need it to be straight. So I'm going to part cure it with my torch and then pop it under the big beast just to make sure that it's definitely not going anywhere and it's definitely cured. But that didn't quite go to plan. You'll see there's lots of bubbles in there. Apparently UV resin doesn't like to be used with 3D printed stuff. So what's happened is the surface has cured with the light and then it's kind of pulled away at the side, allowing an air bubble to kind of shoot through into the resin. But I've really cured that and those bubbles aren't moving. So, I mean, it's on there. It's not going anywhere. Let's stick it on. Let's stick it on the device and see what happens. That's too quick. But if you notice, it's a little bit, you know, it's not perfect, but the 3D print itself is a little bit out of shape. What I should have done is maybe applied some heat to that and given it back some better shape. But I think this could work. If I get the sweet spot, I'm turning the dial slightly off camera. There, I think this could work. So now I just need to find something to maybe cable tie this onto something so I can then use this to make an inlay ring. I know what you're thinking as well. You can use like a paintbrush or something to place the ring on and turn it by hand and cure it. But I mean, I've got this. I might as well give it a try, and if it works, it's a little bonus. I don't have to get out the big cut turner every time I want to make an inlay ring. Whoa! I mean, as for a stand, I'm only really going to be using this device for adding resin afterwards, because if I want to stick stuff in there, I can do it off, you know, I don't need it to be on there to do it. This is only really for finishing it off or dripping your colours or whatever you want onto the actual inlay. So I could rest this on a box as long as you don't knock it over. I mean, I haven't got any cable ties, so that's not very good, is it? But I mean, yeah, I said at the beginning of the video this was going to be a budget experiment, and it's exactly what it's turning into. But I'm going to carry on. So for my ring, I'm going to the resin paper technique, but we're going to be using glitter this time. Another channel has done this. Donna over at DNA Resin did a video recently. She beat me to it, basically. I did some short videos on this, but I never got around to filming the whole video because I was poorly. So I'm going to show you how to make some incredible glitter papers, and I'm hoping we can then use these to make some inlay rings. So most of you know, those of you who have been following me for some time, I'm not great with glitter. I don't like it. It sticks to everything and it freaks me out a little bit. So I'm being brave. I'm being brave. I just need to pick the color. These are chunky. There's a mixture in this. This is from a company called Jam Pot Glitter. They're UK based. I'm not affiliated with the company at all. They were kind enough to send me some free glitter quite a while back. I don't really use glitter, so we are going to be using it today. I just need to decide on a colour. I think we'll go with this one. What is it? Oh my god. So I'm going to chuck some of that in there. I'm going to make up more than what I need for the ring, because like I said in the previous videos, making this resin paper, we can store this away as sheets and then just get it out whenever we need it for different projects. So I'm going to make up a fairly big sheet. Why is it all sticking together? Static. No, that's way too much. I know I said I was going to make a big sheet, but I don't want it to be that big. Oh, that'll do. Now, the trick is not to add too much UV resin. You need this to be really thick so that when we spread it on the paper and sandwich it between the layers, it doesn't create too many gaps. You really do need this to be thick. So little by little, I'm just adding it until it kind of makes a clumpy mess of glitter in my mixing cup. And again, I haven't said this, it's important that all the bits of glitter are covered with resin, otherwise it's just going to fall apart. It does need to be thoroughly mixed. I think that needs a little bit more, and then I'll just finish covering it all and making sure it's all covered in UV resin so it bonds. As always, massive shout out to my channel members, anyone who's bought me a coffee or a super thanks, and to all my subscribers. Right, I think that's enough. I'm just going to continue mixing that until I know it's all covered. Now what I can do, this glitter reminds me of abalone shell, is just plop that onto the paper. See how dry it is? That's what we want. Just get all of that out into a pile. Then I can fold over my parchment paper, just give it a squish, and just begin to spread that out. Now this will be thicker than the other resin paper that we've made. You don't want it too thin because again it's going to create gaps. And you can see you do need a fair amount of glitter. You don't really get much. Maybe I should have stuck with that really large heap that I put into my cup. Just begin to spread that out evenly with my tool. Again, credit card will work. And then I'm going to give that a minute cure on one side, flip it over, and give it a minute on the other. And go a little bit thinner so it has a little bit more flexibility. The thinner it is, the more you can bend it. But again, you can get small little gaps and holes if you go too far. It doesn't have to be chunky glitter either. Any glitter will work for this. Again, just make sure you don't add too much resin. Otherwise it's just going to separate and you'll have no effect. Okay, I think that will do. I'm going to cure that now. So that is now cured on both sides. We can peel that off. And the great thing about this is it's going to have many uses. I mean, what you can do with this is you could cut around a cabochon. I've shown this on my other videos on different platforms. Cut it to shape. If you're using epoxy, for example, you don't have to worry about the layer of epoxy, first layer of epoxy curing before you add a layer of glitter now. You can pour your fresh epoxy into your mold and then just lay this on the back of it. And as long as it doesn't submerge fully, it won't sink. So you can do glitter layers without having to wait for curing. See what I mean about the small gaps you can get? but I think that's the only one that I can see. That's really, really nice. And once that's got a layer of resin on, it's really going to pop. And there's no sticky uppy bits. It's completely flat. So if you was to do an inlay ring and just apply the glitter in there, they're really fiddly because the glitter moves around. Well, with this, we can get the cut. We can cut it to, hopefully, the perfect measurement for the inlay in strips, and then use some heat to bend it around and basically glue it in place. But my super glue's at home. Okay, I'm gonna have to think about that bit. So I'm going to begin by cutting a straight edge using my ruler and craft knife. Hopefully I can get this first time. I don't know, I've not done it before. I'm just gonna cut it enough so that it basically just snaps. And again, keep the offcuts because you can always use these for like mosaic stuff. I've got some bits that haven't come off properly, but that's not a problem. So now I just need to get the cut perfect so that it will fit inside the inlay perfectly. I think I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to eyeball it. So I'm lining it up, lowering my head down and just making sure at either end it's around the same width as that channel. And then I can score it and cut that strip off. Hopefully. I mean, I've got enough there. If it goes wrong, I can do it again. It's no biggie. Okay, I need to be careful with this because I don't want it to snap. I need to heat it to be able to bend it. I think I may have needed a little bit more resin in the mix because it's quite flaky. But we should. I might need to sand down one of the edges a little bit because it's not quite fitting. Look at that colour. It's like opal. Yeah, I think, do I just cut another strip or do I just stick with it and sand it a little bit? I haven't tried sanding it, so let's just try. It's very difficult. It is very difficult because I don't want it to snap. Guys, I just cut another strip. I don't be sitting here for ages worrying that, or even getting into size and then making one slip and it's snapping. So this one fits a lot better. All I did was just laid the slightly bigger one on top and then just reduced the size a tiny amount, and that now fits inside that channel perfectly. So now we need to hopefully, I've not tried this, heat this enough to be able to bend it around the ring without it snapping. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could lay it on a heat mat to heat it up, or hot water. I'm going to try hot water, but I'm going to be smart. I'm going to try it with the piece that was slightly too big first to see how well it bends. So this is just some hot water from my tap. Ignore the floating bits of fluff. I didn't rinse the pot out. Just going to leave that in there for, I don't know, how quick. See, if you've got a soft UV resin, it would be ideal, but I don't. You can just see how quickly that's becoming more flexible. See that? Really, really easy. But I definitely think I needed a little bit more resin in there because I'm worried it is going to snap. But let's commit. A heat gun would work also. I want to shape it first, get some flexibility into the strip first before I then think about the next steps. I'm going to leave that one in there for a bit longer. Okay, it's been in there for about a minute. So I'm going to start to bend that around the inlay. It cools down pretty quick, so I can just dip that back in the water and bend it around more, just to get its initial shape. And I'm going to double over, if you know what I mean. Just hold that in there. So it's not that hot because I can hold my hands in there. I know I've got gloves on. It's just hot water from my tap. I suppose I could always keep it doubled over, but the risk is when I add the UV resin finish, if there's a lip there, it will create a kind of bow on the surface. Look at that for a first time. I've got a little bit of a gap there, but I can fix that with one flake of glitter. Is this too fiddly, guys? I don't know. I think, again, I haven't seen it done like this before. And the more we do things, the quicker it will become. So all I need to do now is just commit to a straight snip there, which will be the first part I put into the ring. Put it back in. This is where the super glue would come in handy, because I could glue that in place. And I can kind of line it up and know where to make the second cut. If I go a little bit longer than what I need, I can then take it off bit by bit until they fit snugly together, I hope. But again, any tiny gaps I can hide with flakes of glitter. I'm really impressed. Apart from that little bit there. But again, I'll fix that. This could work really well. Might have to run to the shop and get some super glue. I'm going to take it off and let it all dry for now, because that will cause a problem. Before going to get super glue, I want to see if this will work, because I might be able to get a spot of UV resin underneath it and cure it through the layer. It's worth a bash, isn't it? It's worth a try. So if I get a tiny blob underneath there, push it down into place. I'm hoping I can blast that with my handheld torch and just get a bond. Doesn't have to be perfect, just enough to hold it so I can bring this round and snug again like that. And again under the other back side. Why was I going to say back side? Under there. Should now be able to cure that in place. So the only issue I have really is bubbles, because there's not resin underneath the whole lot. So there's little pockets of air that are going to be stuck underneath the strip that could come up through the sides as it's curing, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna wing it. I am gonna wing it, but I do need to patch up these tiny areas with a little flake here and there just to hide it. Get off. Guys, it's turning into one of those videos. That'll do. I mean, how professional does that look? Just a box of resin. I've taped it on there. I turn that on and I've got a really bad ring turner. I don't know if this is gonna work. There's only one way to find out, and that is by just doing it. Let's find that sweet spot. You can hear the sonic motor kicking in. Oh, it's really bumpy. It is really, really bumpy. Yeah, I'm committed now, guys. I'm gonna have to just... Oh dear. It still feels like it's going too fast. Can I slow it down any more than that? I'm sure I had it going slower before. I think that'll do. It's like it really slows down and then speeds up a little bit. The things I do. I think I'd rather turn it by hand than this. But you don't know these things, guys, unless you try them. I'm blaming the 3D printed ring holder. It's not my design. If this comes out right, I'm going to be gobsmacked. It's really doming up in the middle. Just using my stick to spread that resin to the sides. Oh my goodness. There's an area that's kind of blobbed up. I don't know whether you can see it on camera. Oh, it's not going to be a great finish. It's looking a bit gappy on this left side as well. It is definitely not even. Oh dear. Wonder if there's any way of straightening it out. Oh, look at that. Right, so it just needs a little bit of support. See here. It just needs something there. That is much better. See what I mean about bodging it? But guys, if it works, it works. I'm now seeing a much flatter finish to this ring. It's going a little bit faster now though. But I'm happy. I don't want to play about with it anymore. I think I'm just going to leave that just to make sure there's no kind of bubbles coming up through the sides before I start to cure that. I can't believe this. I think what I'm going to do is use my flashlight just to begin to cure it as best I can, because I don't want to move it. If I can cure it with this, and then I can get the big lamp, I can take it off and put it under the big lamp just to make sure it's fully cured. Guys, maybe don't try this at home. It's just an experiment to see if it would work. And I'm quite happy it is working. So now what I'm going to do is turn on my big lamp, turn this off, and then just hold it under there just to finish it off. Right, we're all done. As always, guys, give the video a thumbs up, drop me a comment. If you haven't subbed, hit that button for me. It is free. Again, it was just a crazy video. If you do have, you've seen my previous ring making videos using the cup turner. You can get these in different sizes. I'm not sure where from though. You'd have to kind of ask around in some resin groups. But you can get them to fit onto the end of the machine. I was just kind of winging the video just as an experiment, just for a bit of fun, really. So yeah, but the resin paper works really, really well. That was originally going to be the video. You can create so many different colors. You can make your own by mixing different colors. These are all from Jam Pop glitter, and you can also, if you want to test to see what they look like, just apply a blob of UV resin in a patch. But again, you can just store these away. And just use them whenever you want. This is using mylar flakes. Mylar flakes can be a pain when you're using, because they always end up with, especially when you're layering with them, you end up with pointy uppy bits, sticky outy bits, sharp points. When you make a paper out of it, you don't get that. It's completely flat. And again, you can do the same with this as what I just did with mine. So yeah, I mean, it worked. I wouldn't recommend doing it. It's going to be no good for epoxy either, because the battery would probably run out before the resin cures. But so I'm happy with the ring, not happy with the device. But again, you don't know unless you try. Just goes to show you, if you've got an idea, you can make things work in different ways just by hunting around and just kind of thinking about just budgets. But there you go. It's really nice. See you for the next one. Bye for now. Oh, I forgot as well. You can also make holographic resin paper. That was just the same method, sandwiching the resin, but with the holographic window film in between the paper as well. So I think there could be quite a few uses with this also. And these were using, like I said, the cabochon with the epoxy, and if you sand them down, you get a really nice effect. Really shiny flashes on those as well. Yeah, see you for the next one. Bye for now.